Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Vulkan, and with Ruby being confirmed as the first banner of 2.0 on October 20th, I think we need to take a look at some of the leaks out there to see exactly how much she might be changing. As with anything else, take these leaks with a dump truck of salt because everything is subject to change. Let's talk about Ruby and what we can expect with her. So something you're gonna notice on these screenshots is a new button for weapon appearance. This is fantastic because this allows us to change our weapon skin. Right now, you can't change between your weapon skin if you go beyond A3. With this, you will be able to, thank goodness, because let me tell you guys, there are some weapons that they go downhill at A3. So I'm really glad that they're adding this into the game. Okay, so I'm not gonna waste your guys' time anymore. Let's talk Ruby. She's gonna bring S tier shatter and B tier charge to the table. She's also gonna have flame resonance, which is fantastic because I know a lot of people are a little uneasy using Cobalt as the flame core for a fire team. So being able to have Ruby as that instead will make people, I think, feel a little bit better. Now, in terms of advancements, we do have some pretty interesting changes here. So for the first advancement for your A1, this is going to increase Sparky's basic attack damage and reduce your weapon skill cooldown. So in global, we're looking at an 80% increase to basic attack damage and your weapon skill cooldown reduced to 24 seconds. Now this is a step down from the CN client, which by the way, this just is something we're gonna have to get used to. We will have reduced values for the most part, I can imagine, from CN all the way through. They want to really reduce the amount of power creep that CN experienced, and because of that, we're going to see lower numbers and more balanced characters. So I think there needs to be a lot less sort of gasp whenever something drops considerably, because hopefully the devs have planned for this and the entire client, the entire game version, the global version, will be a little bit better off for it. So anyway, the CN version increases this to 182%, and we're looking at 80% on global. Now moving on to A3, incidental fire damage is increased and Scorch settlement multiplier is increased. So again, over on the CN client, it was an 18% increase to incidental fire damage. On global, it is 8%. And then the settlement multiplier was increased to 150% on CN, and it's 75% on global. So we're looking at about half for each one of these. And then as we move into A5 and A6, so A5 is going to cause each attack that hits an enemy to restore an additional 75 points of weapon charge with a slightly under 1 second cooldown. Now, when ultimate heat is active, your shatter is going to be increased by 25%. So let's talk about that for a second. So ultimate heat is a passive that Ruby has. So during the existence of Spark, so every time Sparky's basic attack deals a point of damage, you're going to gain 1 stack of heat energy, up to 1 every second. And then you're going to be able to stack this up to 8 times. Now, once you hit your maximum stacks, you're going to get ultimate heat. This is going to increase your flame attack by 25% for 25 seconds. And that's why this A5 is so crazy, because it continues building on that. So not only do you get that big increase to your flame attack, but you also get a shatter increase as well. Now for the A6, this is going to increase Sparky's basic attack damage again, and it's going to double the effectiveness of heat, and your weapon skill cooldown will be reduced even further. So for global, we're looking at a basic attack increase to 160%, and then the weapon skill cooldown reduced to 16 seconds. Now, because this is still in Chinese, I'm not entirely sure if that doubles the effectiveness of heat buff is still there or if it was removed. So that's something that we'll have to keep an eye on. So those are her advancements, and as you can see, it's just a slight reduction from the CN version, which, like I mentioned earlier, is basically par for the course at this point. So let's go ahead, let's change gears a little bit, and let's talk about her matrices. So Ruby's matrices are actually pretty cool. I really like them. Just to kind of give you a TLDR, the bonuses they provide are essentially cut in half. So please just go into it knowing that, but let's talk about the different sets we have. So for her 2-piece set, after using the weapon skill, your flame attack is increased by a certain amount for 25 seconds. And then for her 4-piece set, after releasing the weapon skill, you're going to gain mastery for 15 seconds with a cooldown of 15 seconds. While Mastery is active, any successful basic attack will increase your flame damage by a certain amount for up to 6 stacks, with a cooldown of 0.2 seconds between each stack. Once you reach 6 stacks, you're going to gain a shield to resist damage for 1 time. Mastery cannot be stacked, and different levels of Mastery will share a cooldown. So overall, her matrices I really like, and I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how her matrices play into a fire team. Because after using the weapon skill, you're going to get a big jump to flame attack. And then for her 4-piece set, you're going to gain Mastery, which is also going to increase your flame attack and give you a get out of jail free card 1 time. So again, I think whatever fire team you want to build and whatever your primary damage dealer is, you want to make sure to get this 4-piece set on them because there's just a lot of utility there and there's a lot of damage output. Now, in terms of her traits, you have Dreamcatcher and you have Dolly's Domain. For Dreamcatcher, you're going to increase the flame damage taken by all enemies within 5 meters by 8%. Now, this is not stackable. And then for Dolly's Domain, you're going to increase the flame damage received by all enemies within 5 meters by 8% again. And then after throwing out Dolly, which is your dodge attack, you're going to increase your flame attack by 12% for 10 seconds. Again, not stackable. So Ruby just seems to be a fire powerhouse, which obviously we imagine that would be. So I think comboing her up with Cobalt and then another fire user, whether that's King, whether that's Yuma, however you want to go through and configure your team, I think you're looking at a really strong duo with Cobalt and Ruby, especially if you can get them leveled up high enough. Because Cobalt, remember, her Ion Scorch will proc against burn targets, and Ruby seems to burn things very quickly. So being able to have both of these, I think, is going to be really awesome. But I think the biggest question is, will a fire team be able to out DPS a Volt team or even a Frost team when Saki shows up? I think that's going to be the big deal. Now, I know their viewpoint for global is you can create whatever team you want and it'll still be viable. Obviously, there's going to be a min-max meta. There always is. But will fire stay relevant? So hopefully it will. I like fire. I think it's a cool play style. It's very, burn or bust, which is, I guess, its kind of whole identity and makes a lot of sense. But either way, guys, this is everything we have about Ruby so far. I want to hear from you guys. Do you think Ruby is going to be worth pulling if she stays where she is now? Are you going to be going for a fire team, yes or no? And what characters would you pair up with Ruby if you do end up pulling for? Thank you all so much for watching. If you like Tower Fantasy content, please consider liking and subscribing. And as always, this has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.